Okay, how do we program? Yeah. So this is a very good question. So I think um, more than more than anything in this lecture, this is just a guide on how to develop a program. Of course, experience on programming is the best teacher for you, but still, you should have a good guide on how to start. Okay, As, the more you progress in programming, the more you develop some techniques, some etiquettes on how to develop a program. Ayan. So, applying the software development method. Programming is a problem-solving activity. That good problem solver, good program. Ayan. So, being an engineer, I well, is it safe to assume that you're a good problem solver? I guess so, no? Sana. And therefore, be a good programmer. If you're not a very good problem solver, I hope in this course, ma-develop nyo yung problem solving skills nyo. So in a problem solving activity, we need to first, of course, identify the given and what is asked. So yeah, specify the problem requirements. And then analyze the problem, design the algorithm to solve the problem, implement the algorithm, test and verify the completed program, and maintain and update the program. Ayan, so very straightforward naman ito, right? So let's think of an example of a program and apply something here. Can you think of something that you want to do? Can you think of a problem? Compute GWA. Ayan. So, sige. So compute GWA. So specify the problem requirements. Ano yung problem requirements doon? Yung GWA nyo. So i-compute kung papasa ba. Yun yung compute the GWA. Problem mababa. Okay, sige. So problem nyo mababa, tapos gusto nyo i-compute yung GWA nyo. So analyze the problem. How do you compute a GWA? So what is needed is the GWA and design an algorithm to solve the problem. So first, you have to get all the grades in every subject. Then get the units and then multiply the grade by the units and then add all of this, add all the product of the units and the grade, and then divide everything by the total number of units. And then you get the GWA that you want. Then test and verify the completed program. So if there are some special cases, kunwari, nag-drop kayo, or may incomplete, meron bang meron bang uh, meron bang effect yun dun sa program, dun sa algorithm na ginawa nyo? If that's the case, then you modify some things in your program in order to include all of these special cases, and then maintain and update the program. I guess if you are having a website, ayan, balik na naman tayo sa UVLI NCRS. Ayan. So it's very important to maintain and update the program. So that's one way, software development method. And yung first activity natin, kung maalala nyo, is I ask you to do the steps of your favorite activity, di ba? So that's one way. Di ba? Sabi ko sa inyo, if you can specify all the steps of an activity program, then you're going to have an idea of solving the problem. Even this one, itong software development method, is, as you can see, it's by steps. So this is what I want you to develop this course. Okay? Ayan. Ayan. So basahin nyo na lang to, no? Basahin nyo na lang. But siguro enough na yung example natin on the example that we gave on this one. So specify the problem. Very straightforward. Again, an algorithm. Algorithm is a set of steps required to solve a problem. We'll discuss more of it later on how to formulate the algorithm, a guide for formulating it. Okay, ayan, algorithm. An algorithm is a process of set of rules to be followed in the calculations of solving of or other problem-solving operations. Procedure for solving a problem in terms of the actions to be executed and the order in which these actions are to be executed. And they can be represented by pseudocodes and flowcharts. Basically, yun nga, steps on solving the problem. So if you can specify the steps, then you're formulating your algorithm. Okay? Pseudocodes. Medyo wordy itong slides, but this is actually designed for you to read kasi. So, medyo wordy. Ayan. So, what is pseudocodes? Pseudocodes are human-like language. Tama? So, basically, yung ginawa nyo doon sa first activity natin are pseudocodes. Right? Yan. So, you type your program, but instead of using the C language, you use your own language, right? Be it English, be it Filipino, as long as you can understand it. So for example, this one, ask the user to input A, B, and C, and then find discriminant. So very human-like yung language. Actually, human-like talaga. Human language talaga yung ginagamit for a pseudocode. So after this, as you can see, meron ka ng idea on how to implement your program. And what you want to do next is to just translate this into the C language or whatever programming language you want to use. But for this course, we use C. Ayan. Okay. Next, flowcharts. So these are, kung gumagamit kayo ng Microsoft Word or draw.io, so may makikita kayo mga elements of the flowchart doon. Right? Like this one, terminal, terminator, decision, action process. So let's discuss this one by one. Or you can just read it. Very straightforward. Siguro I can discuss some of the most of the flowchart elements I use. So first, this one, I use this, indicates the start of the flowchart process. Okay. And then this decision, of course, this one is if. Ayan. So the keyword is if. If you are going to use if functions, right? So if yes, then kunwari if yes, yan, punta dyan. If no, punta dito. Ayan. So mahahati sa dalawa yung program. And then actions are processes. This one indicates the actions that you want to do. For example, you want to print stuff. You say here, I want to print output, something like that. So nakalagay dyan yung steps na gagawin niya. So this one holds input and output information. I rarely use this. Siguro I use that sometimes lang. Or document. There is one thing here. You might wonder why may mga shapes dito like this one. And even this one, I think may ano pa ito. Meron pa tong variation, input output. Kasi dati, and even this one. Kasi dati, when there is hindi pa modern yung mga computers, wala pa yung personal computers and stuff, yung mga shapes na to, yan yung physical shape talaga nila doon sa computers nila. So they have this big cards that they input on the computer. So yung flowchart mismo, yun yung shape talaga ng nilalagay nila doon sa computer for it to read. So ayan, hindi siya nakakalito. But of course, ngayon, hindi na natin ginagawa ito kasi we moved to very sophisticated systems on storage. Ayan, meron na tayong microchips, stuff. So nawala na yung mga ito sa physical, but still we adopted this into the abstract thinking of flowcharts. Okay? And so basically, minsan ang kailangan ko lang dito is itong tatlo. So this one, and this one. Okay? Okay, let's continue. Preprocessor directive. So dinidiscuss din natin ito dati. So these are the hashtag include and the hashtag define, or sharp include, sharp define. So the preprocessor directives are written at the top of your code, okay? And what this does is it shortens your code as we've discussed in the previous lecture. Ayan, sorry. So, ano yung mga ginagamit natin in the previous lecture na naalala niyo? So, meron tayong stdio.h, stdlive.h. And I've told you in the previous lecture yung mga uses nila. So, for example, the stdio.h means standard input output, which contains all the functions print, scan, okay, so input and output. Like this one. So stdio.h, meron siyang printf. stdio.h, it contains, so this is a header file, .h. This is a header file which contains all the functions that you need. And it contains printf. Teka lang. I think I can show you where to find this. Let me see. I'll just find it. Okay? Teka lang. Ayan. So this one is the stdio.h. Okay? So this is given to you by the GCC. Okay? So let's see, ano yung laman niya? So ang laman ng stdio.h is this. So all of this makes you, allows you to print and scan things. So nandyan yung printf, ano pa yung nandito? I actually don't understand this. I just use it. And my point is that ang ginagawa ng program nyo kapag sinabi nyo include stdio.h is that it copies all of this one and then paste it into your code. Okay? So yun yung ginagawa niya. In the end, shorten na yung code nyo. Okay? And again, yung pinakita ko last time where where wait lang. Mali pala ata yung shinare ko. This one is the real stdio.h. Ayan, mas mahaba siya. Okay? So yung pinakita ko last time na stdio.h. Yeah. If kinol yun yung dash e, naalala nyo dati, yung may dash e tayo. Naalala nyo ba yun? And ang ginawa nung dash e sa terminal is tinanggal niya lahat ng comments and tinanggal niya lahat ng hashtag include. So, ibig sabihin nun, na-direct na yung compiler nyo on what is to be used. So, na-direct na siya dito sa file na ito. Okay, so as you can see, sobrang haba niyan. And if you want to copy all of this all over again, nothing is stopping you. But of course, very convenient na yung may hashtag include tayo. Ayan. So, if you want to see where this came from, yan, sa mga folders nyo. I don't know if parehas tayo ng folders, but it's located here. It's located here. Somewhere here in program files. And so dito siya located, no? Tapos sinearch ko lang stdio. Lalabas na siya. Okay? So if you want to explore more. Sige, let's continue. Ayan. So, repeat ko lang, yung hashtag include, kinakopy niya yung code doon sa file and then paste it on top of your code. Okay? And then now you can use printf. We also discussed this, ayan, main function, where you have all your statements. Okay, ito lang yung sinasabi ko kanina. All of this can be shortened into I find stdio.h, copy the code in stdio.h, and then paste the code on top of my code. That's what this says. Okay? Yun lang yun. Another one. So preprocessor recognizes the following directives. So the important thing for you to know for now, of course, there are uses of this one is the define and then include. Okay? Again, this is what I was discussing. Okay, so meron tayo dito na quoted form ng hashtag include. This quoted form is usually used if you have your own header file. Okay? So if you want to, of course, you can make your own header file. So, ibig sabihin nito, if you want to have your own header file, then ang gagamitin mo is quotation, and then where is the file. So if the file is on the folder where your source code is, then sasabihin mo lang yung name ng header file. But if it's not, if it's located in another folder, then you have to specify the address of that file. Okay? So if you made your own header file, then use quotes. Now, angle bracket. So this one is if the header file is included in the folder, in the GCC folder, okay? In the compiler folder, where the header files are located. Okay? So it's very important that you define your path. I don't know kung alam niyo tong path na ito, pero ayun nga. This path is yung default address. Default address na hinahanapan muna ng hashtag include. Okay? So, doon siya sa folder default na maghahanap. So, ito yung default folder where the header files are. Okay? Yan. Nulit na naman ang slide na ito. Now, there are other preprocessor directives like define directive. So, this define directive is can also be used to define something, some identifier in your program. Okay, so in this example, I define G as 9.81. So in all your program, doon sa source code nyo, if you say G, then it automatically converts it to 9.81. Okay, so like this one, if I want to compute the weight, I just write mass times G, and the compiler understands that what you meant by G is 9.81. So very straightforward. Now macros. The second form allows the creation of a function like macros. So here, in this slide, I defined the SQR x, okay, as x times x. So the square, so I'm defining the square of x here, is x times x. Also, you're defining the disk ABC to be square of b minus 4ac. This is actually the discriminant. Okay, so if you call this definition inside your code again, then it will automatically understand that it should do this one. Okay. So very convenient ito, no? If you want to do something in your code. Ayan. So, yeah. At home, siguro homework nyo na lang, ito, is to try running 1A to 6A. Of course, down yung oble pala. So, sige, I'll find a way to send all of this to you so that you can try and run it. C standard library functions. Okay. C standard library. Any questions pala before we proceed? Any questions, guys? None. Okay, sige. Let's just continue. Mag-question lang kayo kapag may hindi kayo naintindihan. C standard library function. So there are libraries in C. So this is a set of code na dinevelop na ng mga programmers all over the world. And they made libraries, right, for us to use. So thank them. They have done such a good job in programming and helping us to shorten our code. So there are functions that is already defined in C, programmed by these awesome programmers. Okay, and these are the C standard libraries. Ayan. So ano ba yung mga ginagamit ko? Usually ginagamit ko lang math.h. This one, math.h. I use that almost all the time using the computations. Okay, so if you want to know ano yung mga laman nito, yan, just find it in your GCC folder, and if you want to examine it, you can do so. But I may warn you, medyo advanced na yung mga programming concepts na ginagamit nila dito. No? So, stdio.h, this one. Sometimes I use this one too. Okay? So, ayan. Next. Standard. Okay, this one, stdio.h, standard input and output library functions. So it contains fopen and fclose. Okay. Printf, fprintf, sprint. So we will discuss all of this. Scanf. So if I want to input something in my program, yan, and then error functions and character input and output. Naulit lang. Okay. So let's discuss each of this. How about ano yung laman ng stdlive.h? So yung stdlive.h, it contains random numbers. So if you want to produce a random number, and srand, pseudo-random number. Also has the calloc and malloc. So this calloc and malloc, you will encounter this again, okay, when we discuss pointers. So wag muna kayong ma-excite masyado. Okay? And then absolute values, of course, returns the absolute value of an integer. So that's what stdlive.h does. Time.h. So it returns the processor time used by the program since the beginning of execution. So makikita nyo to palagi dun sa, I think pag nag-program kayo with code blocks, meron siyang process executed in some seconds. So I think automatically niyang ginagamit yung time.h. Okay, time returns the current calendar time. So this is very important. For example, if you're programming attendance of office workers, di ba? Pag nag-biometrics sila and then it records the time. So very important siya. Ayan. Mathematical functions. So sine x, cosine x. This one. May nalimutan pala akong i-discuss regarding this. Kasi this is a very important thing na pag na-miss nyo, your program might not work. Let me just share something. So again, we are in this Can you see? Can you see the slide? The what I shared. Kita naman, no? Okay. Now, what I did was to include math.h. Okay? Pero, sige. Pero, if you can see, ayan. Yung laman ng math.h are this. So as you can see, it seems that there's no code. Tama? There's no code. Like, what is this ACOS? How do you compute this? How do you compute this? Parang sinasabi lang niya, include mo ito, include mo yan, use this, use this, use this. But how does it actually do it is not here. Okay? So, pag in-include mo yung math.h, it will just paste this code, di ba? Yung diniscuss natin kanina. But, asan yung code dito? Yun yung tanong. But, okay, let me just find yeah. So as you can see in this folder, these are the libraries. Yeah, these are the libraries. So ang libraries has an extension .a. Okay? So pag binuksan nyo yan, hindi nyo mabubuksan kasi naka-encrypt yan. If we try to open it using Notepad, it will happen. So open with Notepad. Ito yung laman niya if you open it in Notepad. So naka-encrypt siya into a machine language. And how to call this libm.a? This libm.a contains all the functions. So napakahabang file ito. Napakahabang source code na if you pasted it on this source code, aabutin ka ng thousands of lines, no? So they just encrypted it into a library. So static library ang tawag dyan. And how to call that in our code. So if you're using the terminal, wait. Sige, code blocks muna. So sa code blocks, it automatically calls it. If you click build and run, automatic na. But if you're using a terminal, this is what you will do. Okay? So call GCC. Call GCC. Yeah, GCC. Then -O to produce the executable file. And then name of the executable file. So in this case, hello world na lang din. Hello world. So I want to build a hello world.exe. The name of the source code, hello world.c. Here it is. Yeah, hello world.c. And then to call the math library, I want you to write -L for library, M for math. Okay? So if you put this, you enter this, then you produce hello world.exe. Now if you run this one, so --dash to run it, and then name of the executable file, you will see that it prints hello CE25. So what did I do here? I just took the square root of 625 and then printed it. 0.0. So we'll discuss more of the syntax later. Pero that's what I did. So may mga ibang compilers na if you don't include this one, your program will not run. Okay? Kasi sasabihin niya na error, Error, I cannot find the functions you said in your program. Okay? So very important dun sa mga gumagamit ng terminal. Okay? Okay ba tayo doon? Okay, sige. I-note nyo na lang ha doon sa mga nagko-code sa terminal. Okay, next. Ayan, so math.h or the libm.a contains all of these functions. Straightforward naman, sine, cosine, tangent. Alam niyo naman lahat yan, no? And all of this one. Again, this is the example code. You should try it. I'll link I'll make, inaayos ko pa kasi yung folders ng course contents from Ublit. Okay? Standard input and output. So here in this part we'll discuss standard STDIO. So standard input output, STDIO. Okay, so what is puts, printf, and scanf? So what is a stream? So this is a very important concept. It is a sequence. They are sequences of bytes of which all input and output is performed with. Okay, so saan ang gagaling yung streams? From the keyboard. And then the standard output stream is to the screen. Okay, so yun lang yung kailangan yung tandaan. To input, you use the keyboard. To do standard output, it prints to the screen. Ayan. So, puts displays a string that terminates with a new line. So let's try this. Puts. For example, litan ko to. Puts hello world. And then save it and build it. Okay, if I run it, lalabas yung hello world. What if I say puts hi CE25? What happens? So if I do that, of course, I'll save it first. Hindi ko pa pala na-build. So build it first and then, yeah. So as you can see, every string here enclosed by these quotation marks ends, puts a new line. Okay? Puts a new line. So puts \n. So this will also, let's see, gawin natin comment. So I can show you paano siya ilagay sa printf. Yan, okay. So if you're using printf instead, then you should add \n. So you can also, so ganyan yung format ng puts if you're using printf. So if you build and run it, as you can see, yan, parehas ng output. No? Ayan siya. So ganun yung puts, no? Meron siyang, puts is also like this. Para siyang ganyan. Ang hello world na statement na yan, meron lang siyang \n. That's short for new line. Short for new line. Okay? Sige. So string must be enclosed in quotation marks. Next, printf. This is one of the most used things. A function that is designed to display the contents of a format control string to the output string. Format control string to the output string. Precise output formatting. So this is a formatted type of output. So printf, format control string, and other arguments. The format control string describes the output format and is enclosed in quotation marks. This may contain characters or literals which are copied to the output stream, escape sequences, and or conversion specifications. Sige, ang maganda dito sa printf is that you can do a lot of things that puts cannot do. For example, okay. For example, I'll put this in a comment first. And yeah. So puts, for example, can I do this one? Percent sige, I na lang. Na natin. Int I. Then make this percent %d. Yan. Can I do this? What do you think? Yan, hindi daw. Kasi, okay, let's try. Ano kaya yung sasabihin ng compiler sa atin? Yan. Sabi niya, yes, wala ring value. Sige, lagyan natin ng value. Tama. Okay. Sige. And build. Let's see. So, anong sabi niya? Error, too many arguments for the function puts. So, ang argument ng dapat sa puts is the string. So, it cannot handle conversion specifications or dun yung mga placeholders natin for our identifiers. So, it can't handle it. However, if we use printf, yan, ito yung kagandahan ng printf. So, it's very formatted. Ayan. So if we use printf, what happens? Yeah, nag-build siya. And then if you run it, then it will print high CE20. Okay? Ayan. So pag may mali sa code nyo, pakibasa yung mga errors, right? And these errors will actually guide you on what you did wrong. So please pakibasa yung mga errors whenever you're debugging. Ayan. We can also do something like this. So new line, can have this escape sequences, new line. So what happens here is this. Yeah, so my enter, new line, ICE25. Okay. Sir, ano uli yung escape sequences? So escape sequences are itong mga \n. So this has special meaning in printing, no? Sige. There are only actually two things that I use whenever programming, \n and \t. So as you can guess, this will put a tab, right? Put a tab. So let me build again and then, hindi ko pala sinave, sorry. So save ko muna, build, and then run. So as you can see here, high CE25 with a tab in between. So ganyan siya. Okay? Sige. Next. Okay. Of course, yung conversion specifications are in %d, no? %d for integers. You can look that up in the previous slides. Other arguments are optional and corresponds to each conversion specification. So gaya ng ginawa ko kanina, yung %d corresponds to I. Okay? Ayan. Let's move on. Ayan. Ito yung tanong ni Lance kanina. What are escape sequences? So, represented by a backslash followed by an escape character. You can actually try a lot of things, um, as a backslash, right? You can I think change the colors of the code, colors of the output. May mga gumagawa nun eh. So medyo beautiful yung standard output nila. You can try that. Magandang exercise siguro is to palitan nyo yung mga backslash n and backslash d by other letters and see what happens in your code. May mga meanings yun sa C. Okay? Ayan, nandito na pala. Ayan. Ito lang itong mga naka-box lang yung usually na ginagamit ko. Mostly backslash n and backslash d. I also tried this. It's fun. Backslash a. So may bell na may bell na tutunog whenever you put the output. Okay. So fun. Okay. Here. Ano yung backslash b ulit? Backspace. Okay. So let's try this. Escape sequences. Puts backslash this, backslash double quote, backslash t, tapos mayroong question mark, backslash n. Then backslash. Then puts hello world, backslash b. So what this does is binalik niya, kasi yung puts, di ba? Nag-new line siya agad. Okay, backslash b. And then, nag-enter siya ng question mark. So you can follow this. Ano yung R? Actually, don't memorize all of this kasi I can look at it. Carriage to turn. Moves the cursor to the beginning of the thread. Okay? Printf. Okay, this one, conversion specifications. This is what I'm doing earlier dun sa mga tatanong. Nakakita or nakapansin. So conversion specifiers indicate which conversion should be applied to the argument before it prints out. Flags control the justification of the output of printing of signs, filled with specified number of minimum characters to input. And precision specifies the number of decimals. Okay. So here, okay, so percent, let's move here. So here, %d displays assigned decimal integer. Okay. I displays signed decimal integer. Note that I and D are specifiers when used with scanf. Okay. Sige, ang kailangan nyo lang tandaan dito is this %d. So yun lang yung ginagamit natin. And then, Okay, so exploring all of this naman is dito naman siya. Okay, so just explore all of this if you want. 455. Okay. O, ano tong O? What is O? Unsigned octal integer. So, just search what it means, no? Pero basically, ang ginagamit ko lang talaga dyan is %t. Now, floating point conversion specifiers, ang ginagamit ko lang again is F or LF. Okay? Nakita na natin to dati, yung F and L, F, kung ano yung effect niya dun sa program. Sige, this one is important, okay? So, a floating point will always show 6 digits by default. 6 decimal digits, okay? By default, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Conversion specifier F always prints at least 1 digit to the left of the decimal points. Conversion E, print exactly 1 digit to the left of the decimal point. I guess this can be showed by examples. Notes, they print with no trailing zeros, show 6 significant digits by default. Okay, sige. So here, what happens? %E, yeah, %E is, it converts it to a scientific form, right? So 1.23 e to the 6 times 10 to the 6. Same with this one. And then ito negative lang. And then here, same lang din with this. Pero capital yung E. No? If you want it that way, that's fine. Here, %F. %F prints 6 decimal digits. Same with %LF. No? Just be careful lang. If you declare it as a float, then you use %F. If you declared it as a double, then you use %LF. G. So what is G? Ano ulit yung G? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 6 significant digits lang yung ipipaste niya. So this has 6 significant numbers, figures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As opposed to this one, it has 6 digits on the right of the decimal point. Also, this one, okay, has 6 significant figures. Also, this one has 6 significant figures. Okay. Conversion specifiers. This one, conversion specifiers, C prints a single character. So %C will print a single character. %S prints a character, prints characters from a string. I'll show that later. Okay. Field widths. Field widths is the exact size of a field in which the data is printed. The field width is larger than the data being printed. The data will be right justified within that field. Okay, how? Ayan. So what's the effect of having this one? So %4 D. If you insert 4, what would happen? Then it will insert spaces dito, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Okay? %4D will insert, kasi meron ka ng 2 digits, will insert 2 digits para maging 4 spaces siya. Okay? And you can understand this one. Anong nangyari dito? %4D. Again, yung nangyari is if the field width is larger than the data being printed, the data will be right justified within that field. So this is right justified within that field. Okay. Again, this is what happens. So very straightforward naman. Precision starts with a decimal point followed by an integer. This is what I mostly use in my programs. Precision, no? With integer conversion indicates the minimum number of digits to be printed. With floating point conversions, ENF, it is the number of digits to appear after that. I guess, sige, huwag na natin basahin ito. Basahin nyo na lang on your own, pero ipapakita ko na lang kung paano. Okay. Sige, I guess, balik tayo siguro sa basics. I'll just show some codes. Here, for example, what I did earlier. So here, for example, I declare I as a double I. Okay? And then I say that I equals 25. Of course, since I put it as a double, tanggalin natin yung mga... Of course, since I printed it as a double, I should change this conversion specifier to %LF for double %LF. Okay? Now, let's see what the output is. Sorry, hindi ko pala sinave. Save muna. And then, run. So, ang pinakita niya dito sa akin is hello CE25.0000. So, by default, this will print 6 decimal places. No? What I do in order to have no decimals, okay, is I put 0.0. So I say I just want the whole number. So I will attach 0.0. So if you run this, yan yung lalabas. Wala nang decimals. Now, if you want some 2 decimal places, then you can also do it. Yeah. Okay ba tayo dito? Very important to in engineering, no? Sa ES 101 din, if you've taken it, very tinuturo na you should not use more than what you can measure. Okay? So for example, yung precision ng measurements nyo, which happens all the time, is just in millimeters, and sometimes in centimeters lang yung accuracy. Don't exceed the accuracy, no? It's ridiculous to exceed the accuracy of your measurement devices. Kahit na sabihin nyo na, I can compute up to 15 decimal places kasi gumagamit ako ng... But yung data nyo naman is hindi naman accurate to that decimal place, then yung results mo pa rin ay considered inaccurate. Okay? Kasi di naman talaga ganun ka-accurate yung inyong measurements. Nakita ko to palagi whenever I'm checking problems na dinedeclare nila na ganito karaming decimal. It doesn't make sense, okay? So just be careful in solving problems. Ayan. So my question ba regarding this? Ito lang actually yung kailangan nyo. Point 2. Okay? Wala naman, we can proceed. Sige. Inserting an asterisk in place of the field width or precision lets you specify the field and precision using the integers in the arguments. So, paano to? Ayan. Print F. Asterisk, asterisk. Anong nangyari? So, 7.2, 2 decimal places, right? And then print this one, 98.736. So what happens is that, ilan yun? Gusto niya is dapat 7 yung digits, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So nira-right align niya yung by 7 digits yung output nyo. And then 0.2, ibig sabihin 2 decimal places. And then this is the data, F. Okay? So 98.7. I'm not sure why dapat 7 ito. But yeah, dapat 7 digits and 7 spaces yung nandito. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Sige, let's move on. Flags supplements the output formatting capabilities of printfs. Several flags may be combined. So ito, left justify the output within the specified field, plus sign preceding the values. So how do we use this? So ayan, justification. Printing signs. Wait lang. So balik tayo sa justifications. So anong ginawa dito? Ayan, merong justifications. So let's see the difference, no? If you just print this, and then you just print this one. So ito yung print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. Okay. And then, what did they print next? So print F hello, okay? 7A 1.23. So ano nangyari? Pag naglagay siya ng minus sign. So ang nangyari is nile-left align niya. So formatted yung lalabas na output. Okay. Next is printing signs. So yan, plus, plus, ilagay na ng plus sign para mag-print yung plus sign. Okay. So, ang nangyari is, yan. So, %D, so ang expected na output dito is 786, negative 786, which is correct. 786, negative 786. And then next is plus D. So, ang expected output ko dito is may plus sign dito. No? And ang expected output ko dito, ano yung sabi niya kanina? And a minus sign preceding negative values. Displays a plus sign. So, yeah, displays a plus sign preceding positive values and a minus sign preceding negative values. So, this will still print minus. Right? That's correct. So, 786, then negative 786. Hindi siya plus, no? Space flag. So, it will print a space before the data. Yan. So, let's see what happens. Yan. So, may space dito. Dito walang space. Dapat may space pa din. Okay, so print the space before a positive value. Positive value, not printed with the plus flag. And a zero flag, what does it do? Pad field, pad a field with leading zeros. So what does that do? Yan, ganyan siya. Okay? So again, I'm not using all of this, right? So hindi rin ako masyadong familiar with how they work, but it's something that is good to know siguro for you if you want your code to be presentable. Ayan. Scanf. This one is I use this almost all the time. Okay, a function that reads characters from the input stream and interprets them according to the format control string. So scanf, yan, describes the format of the input closing quotation marks. So it's like printf, no? This is what you're scanning, and this is where you want to store them. Okay, this is what you're scanning, and then this is where you want to store them. Again, these are the conversion specifiers. D is for integers. So ito lang yung kailangan yung tandaan. So for example, I want to scan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yan. %D, %I, 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 O, U, X. So ayan. Very important din pala for you to remember that you should always put an ampersand sign on the data before the identifier, no? When you're using scanf. Ito yung kadalasan yung error ng karamihan. Nakakalimutan yung ampersand. Okay? Ayan. So if you print this, then this are the out. Of course, magtataka kayo, %D, %D lahat. This is actually converted into decimal, into integer form. Kung in-input nyo siya as, for example, this one, octal form, then kapag in-output nyo siya as integer, then it will be converted automatically. Okay, but of course, di naman talaga yan ginagamit. We just want to show you what happens. Okay? So ang kadalasan ko lang ginagamit usually is %D, %LF, yan lang. Okay? Ayan. So again, pag double, then you put an L. Okay? So this one, straightforward naman. Okay? So ask the user for floating point numbers, and then printing floating point numbers. Ayan, may double siya, no? Ano yung effect kapag double yung ginamit? May effect yan sa accuracy, but it's not shown here. So for example, this one, di na siya ganoon ka-accurate after this. Okay? So again, as a rule for me, whenever programming, kapag double, %LF, and I'm consistent in doing that throughout my code. So minsan lang ako talaga nagbabago ng data type if talagang kailangan. Pero yeah, in order for us, nakakalito kasi pag paiba-iba ka ng data type. So at the start pa lang of initialization of your identifiers, make sure that you know what data type they are. And of course, it also reflects how you how you really um, formulate your pseudocodes or your algorithms, no? Kailangan explicitly na nakalagay doon. Of course, here, for example, field widths. So, kung gusto nyo na ang i-input lang ng user ay 2 decimal places, then you specify 2. Okay? So, the integers input were 12 and 3, 4, 5, 6. Ayan. So, straightforward naman, 2 lang yung kinuha niya. Skipping characters. Okay. To eliminate unnecessary characters, include them in the format control string of scanf whitespace. Characters such as space, new line, tab. Skip all leading white spaces. Scanf also provides assignment suppression character asterisk. This character enables scanf to read any type of data from the input and discard it without assigning it into the variable. Let's see an example. For example, here, enter, so int month 0, initializing month, day, and year, and then printing, enter a date in the form of mmDDYY. So nag-input yung user, and then how do you scan this? How do you scan this? So first, ang ginawa sa program is that scan yung %d. So, in-scan niya yung 11 na integer. And then %*c. So, this one is actually a placeholder for the asterisk. So, anything na in between 11 and 18, it will read a character. So, %c, that's a character. And then %d again, it will read the year. %*c, it will read a character, which is here, a dash. Actually, kahit anong character ilagay mo dito eh. Kasi naka-suppress naman siya in asterisk. And then it will read the year. So then it will print. It will print the month, day, and year. Like this one. So of course, yun nga yung sinabi ko kanina, kahit anong character yan, i-skip lang siya nung scan. Okay? So very useful siya if you have formatted, if you want formatted input. Okay? Debugging. Okay, how to debug? To paraphrase Thomas Edison, programming is 10% inspiration and 90% debugging. So alam niyo ba yung history no? Bakit siya tinatawag na debug? Famous yung story na yun. Kasi may nahanap daw silang bug doon sa computer system nila. So tinanggal nila yon, tapos gumana na yung computer system. So simula noon, tinawag na nilang debugging. Okay. So yung mga worksheets nyo contains a lot of debugging exercises. And it's very important really in programming kasi nga as stated here, it's 90% debugging. I never actually run a program na wala akong tinanggal except for very basic program like printing hello world. So most of the time, lagi akong may mali sa code ko and nahahanap naman siya palagi by reading the errors, understanding what the errors are, and with the help also with programming environments like CodeBlocks and Visual Studio Code. Napapadali na yung buhay natin. Okay? So order of evaluation errors. The increment and decrement operators are used in most C programs, and the order in which the operations takes place is affected by whether these operators precede or follow the variable. Okay. So this one, y equals 10, x equals y plus plus. And y equals 10, x equals plus yy. So, ano yung ginawa dito? So, as you can remember from our last discussion, if post, no, post increment, so after this line lang magte-take effect yung plus yy. However, here, what's the value of x? So here, the value of in this case, the value of x is still 10, right? Kasi after this line pa mangyayari na y equals 11. However, here, nangyari na yung plus. So, ang value dito is 11 na. So, x equals 11. Then, after that line also, y equals 11. So, just be careful. And one thing, I guess, ang advice ko lang is that don't do this. Bad programming. Bad. Okay? Bad. Don't do this. Number one, nililito nyo lang yung sarili nyo. Number two, nililito nyo lang din ako. So, ayoko ng ganon. So, be as human-like as possible. Okay? Huwag nyo nang lituhin yung magbabasa ng code nyo. At huwag nyo naling lituhin yung sarili nyo. Okay? Okay. Also, don't do this one. I'm not really a fan of post-incrementing and pre-incrementing. Unless I'm using for loops as I've told you in the last slides. Kasi nga nakakalito siya. So, hindi ko na ginagawa. And, but if you're challenging yourself, then you can do. Okay. Sige. Next. Syntax errors. Of course. Syntax errors. Ang language natin is a programming language is a language. So it has a grammar, no? A grammar. So kapag nawala yung isang, and it's a very strict language actually, no? So hindi siya katulad ng human languages na if may pagkakamali ka, it can be still understood. A computer who is trying to comprehend what you are saying is very actually stupid. No? A computer is stupid. Even in instructing it to make something, it's very stupid. It just follows every line. Kumbaga kapag totoong tao yung computer, sasabihin niya sa kanya, wala ka namang common sense. Ganun naman sinasabi ko. I wish I can tell that to a computer whenever I'm debugging a complex program that I made, which takes me like the whole day of trying to find a single semicolon that I missed, or a single comma that I missed, or a single ampersand that I missed. So ganun yung computer, it's very stupid. Actually, they are developing some code blocks. Visual Studio Code develops artificial intelligence systems to detect, debug your systems for syntax errors. And I think that's very helpful. No? So, what is my advice? My advice is that, ayan. So my advice is this. Whenever you're programming, don't program the whole system at once. No? Kasi whenever you're programming, you're outputting something, and again, within your program, you're using that output as an input to another function, for example. So my advice is program by steps. So i-follow nyo yung follow nyo yung flowchart nyo, for example. And meron kang milestones na isa-set, no? So at this point, dapat meron akong output na ganito. Let me check. Try kong i-run yung program. Does it output the correct value that I expect? So mga ganong things, no? Especially if you're programming a very long program, which you will do in some of your machine machine exercises. Okay? MX. Yeah, that's my advice. Yeah, so these are the things. Also, yung compiler nyo is very advanced na nowadays. So, please, kung ayaw mag-compile ng program nyo, which it will if may syntax errors kayo, then please read the errors and you can learn from those errors. No? Makikita naman niya, i-indicate naman niya, at line here, parang may kulang. Sabihin niya, I expect something like this. Sasabihin ng compiler niya. Okay. Declaration errors. O, anong mali dito? Hindi ito na-declare, no? Ayan, so hindi ito na-declare. So yung compiler nyo, sasabihin niya, temp num is not declared. I don't know what temp num is. So how to fix this is that you declare temp num. Okay? Yun lang yun. Other common errors. There are a lot more common errors in C, but they will be discussed as we proceed with future topics. I think one more thing. Like I've discussed in the past lectures, ang errors ay hindi lang syntax errors, no? Ang errors can be errors can be in a form of a thing that you do in your program where it doesn't make sense. I forgot the term in linguistics. Meron silang term na ganun eh. Let me just think of an example. Sandali lang. Let me think of an example. Just give me a minute. Ayan. So, yung syntax, for example, in English, you can say some words like cat, dog, boy. Okay? Cat, dog, boy. Does it make sense? Hindi, no? Hindi siya nagme-make sense, di ba? As opposed to, in English also, meron siyang errors na, kunwari sabihin ko, I runs fast. It makes sense, pero may mali lang ako sa subject-verb agreement, no? I runs fast. Dapat I run fast. Pero yung cat dog boy, it doesn't make sense. Same with programming. For example, yun nga, sinabi ko dati na mass tapos dineclare force tapos dineclare mo siya as integer. So it doesn't make sense. Why would you declare a force as an integer? So obviously, kapag wala kang syntax errors dun sa programs mo, dun sa code mo, then you can build your code and compile it and eventually run it. But will the result be correct? Of course not, because there's a bug that you cannot see and the computer cannot see because it's stupid. na something in your program doesn't make sense, which is the force is not an integer. Ganon. So just be careful in, again, be consistent. Sa start pa lang, sasabihin nyo na, ito dapat, this is a double data type. Okay? So at the start, hindi na kayo malilito. Okay. That's also a good programming etiquette practice. Okay? So what happens? This is what I'm telling you earlier. Nandito pala sa slide. So incremental testing approach. You can read all of this, but same lang ng sinabi ko kanina. Just have milestones in your programs where you can test your code. Okay? Lagi niyong i-run. Sige, try ko munang i-run ito. Kung gumagana, shorter milestones para manageable siya, no? In large projects where there are several modules with little interactions, you can establish several operational units, allow concurrent development. Basically, just divide your project in milestones. And, sige, wait lang, magdagdag ako. What happens when the program has bugs? So number one, what happens is it might crash. Okay? Gaya nung nangyari kanina. So let's try to have an example. For example, I forgot this one. Printf. And let's see. Sorry. Ito pala isa-save ko. Yan. So, it cannot build itself. So, it crashes, no? Ano pa? Siguro I can make something like this. Have some n. Then I say n equals 24. So for I equals 0, I is less than wait, I can think. I is less than n. Sorry. Yeah. So if you build this will actually be built. Sorry. Save ulit. This can actually be built, but what happens if I run it? So the program doesn't end. Yan. Ano tingin nyo mali? Ano tingin nyo? So it doesn't end. Tuloy-tuloy lang siya up to infinity. Anong tingin nyo mali? Can anyone tell me? So I'll stop. Can anyone tell me? Ano yung mali? Before we go. Guys, gising pa kayo.
Kasi I less than N talaga.
Ano yun?
Kasi I is less than N.
Yeah, okay. So nosebleed lang, sir. Okay, sige. So ang ginagawa ng code na ito is, while sinasabi ko, this is a loop, okay? This is a loop. While I is less than N, it will print high CE 25. Okay? High CE percent D. So ano ba yung value ng I? Is 25, right? Right?
Wait, so sir, kung I equals 20,
Yeah, so
forever it will be
yeah, forever it will run kasi hindi naman nagjo-change yung value ng I. So what I will do here in order for it to work is I will say I++. Okay? So if I run it, yeah, na yung nawala yung ating ano. Wala yung terminal. Yun. Yan. If I run it again, so let me build it again. -o hello world dot c hello world dot c dash lm. So may math library pa ako. Then if I run it, yan, it will just print high CE 25. Okay? Kasi once na pumasok siya dito, piprint niya yung I. Ang value ng I is 25. Now, after this line, I will add 1 to I. So after this, pag bumalik siya dun sa loop, magiging I equals 26 na. Which is equal and not less than to N. So ibig sabihin, hindi niya nagagawin yung task inside this loop. And it will exit the loop and then it will return to 0. Okay, so tapos na yung program niya.
Sir, what is the function of plus again?
So this is a shortcut for I equals I plus 1. Okay, so you're saying that whatever your value for I is, you add 1. So after this line, so here in this line, I equals 25, right? So after this line, I is now equal to 25 plus 1. So yeah, let's print. Printf printf percent %d I. Okay? Save. Yan. So after that line, I will now be equal to 26. So it's also the same as I++. Okay? So post-decrement siya. Hindi ko pa pala sinisave. Yeah. So it has the same output. Okay? Ayan. Lunch na, no? Lunch na. Sige, any questions that you want to, or any insights? Sige, mag-ano na lang tayo. Mag-menti. Before you leave. Okay? Ayan. Before we leave, tapos na tayo sa module 1, no? So, please input your feelings in this synchronous lecture. So excited na kayong mag-code. Medyo lost. Okay. So, ayan. I guess this all these lectures, dalito na po ng slide. Sige. All these lectures are just lectures, and what I want you to do is just to apply it in problems. And one thing to apply it is by doing the MX. Yan. So I feel like while you are doing the MX, I feel like you will find it interesting and find it logical to work about it. Ayan. Sige, more practice. Yun nga eh. I'm also frustrated about the uble kasi na-arrange na namin lahat. And now, we're still busy deconstructing all the course files. Okay? Sige. So I promise within this week sana. And let me, 3 minutes na lang. Sige. Siguro I can also share to you in email yung mga MX. So you can already start working on it. Okay? Sige. Tama no? Familiarize and more practice kasi it's a language na. Okay. Ayan. So if you have no questions, please we can now end this meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.